From Fox 8 Sports, this is the Overtime Podcast.
From inside the Saints Museum at the Saints facility in Metairie on Airline Drive, welcome into the Fox 8 Overtime Podcast. I'm your host, Shough, Fazende, riding shotgun as he does each and every podcast, is Andre Johnson.
Junior.
Don't forget the Junior. It's very important to remember the JR at the end of the name. Before we get into today's content, be sure to like, to share, to rate, to review. If you are watching us on YouTube, do us a favor, hit that subscribe button. Get the bell notification for when we drop that
fire content.
Also, hello to the Gulf Coast Sports and Entertainment Network. Glad you have found us here. It is Thursday here in the city of New Orleans. The Saints have just completed another OTA practice. We were able to watch it. We have a lot to say because a very prominent player stood out today. We're going to get to that in just a second. How you feeling on this very, I don't know, it was rainy earlier. Now it's humid. Now it's overcast. I don't know what to make of this weather. Typical summer day here in New Orleans.
Man, I'm just happy to get some football, to be in there, to watch the guys play. You know, it's been so long. You feel like you're starved of the game. So just being able to see everything felt good. And also a shout out to the YouTube community. We posted a poll yesterday, and the poll was, who do you think will win the quarterback battle? We were really interested to see what you guys thought, and it was a lot closer than we expected. As of the last time I checked, which was about 2 minutes ago, 53% Spencer Rattler, 47% Tyler Shuck, and if you're in that 47%, it was a good day for you guys.
It was a good day, and that's where we obviously have to go with the big picture today, because quite frankly, the player that stood out the most today was rookie quarterback Tyler Shuck. A little bit different today than the last OTA we were able to see. A, they got more pass attempts. Last week they had 8. This week they had 12. And B, they rotated in practice with QB1 and QB2 reps. The first 7-on-7 went to Spencer Rattler, where Shuck was the second quarterback in the rotation. And the next time around, they flip-flopped. Shuck was number 1, and obviously Spencer Rattler was number 2, both on his jersey and obviously QB2 during that period. And I will just say this as we lead this thing off. Today you saw what attracted the Saints to Tyler Shuck throughout the pre-draft process. I mean, everything that stood out from his tape at Louisville and really throughout his collegiate career was on display today in a very limited space. It was 12 attempts. We understand that, so we're going to keep our evaluations measured. But to see the raw, physical arm talent, it was on full display during the team 7-on-7 session. I will reiterate that, and I will say that many times. It was 7-on-7. It was not 11-on-11. They're not doing any 11-on-11 live. They're doing 11-on-11 walkthrough type stuff. So while he did do really good today, keep in mind this was 7-on-7, so keep that just kind of in the back of your mind. Now, what did he actually do? Well, he opened his first pass of practice that was not routes on air, that with a defender across from him, he opened with a 60-yard bomb to Bub Means. And I don't know, you and I both kind of looked at each other. It's almost like he was just playing around. It's like so effortless the way he just kind of just threw it up. Bub Means kind of had a little bit of a delayed release and got up the field. I had to go back and check exactly see what the DB was guarding him, but throw was in stride. He caught it. It was 60 yards. It was right in front of us where we were standing. For the media in the indoor facility. Then, a couple of plays later, he did it again. Another 60-yard bomb, this time to Donovan Peoples-Jones. Another one where he got behind a defender, and Shuck just effortlessly flick of the wrist, let it rip, and it was a touchdown. It was a beautiful throw. He also had another throw where he threw a kind of a deep 7 route to a tight end, got it over the underneath defender who was in that drop zone coverage. He was able to get the throw down right before the sideline, get the 2 feet down. His best throw, this is crazy to say because he had 2 60-yard bombs, but maybe his best throw was almost on a broken play where I've said this a lot when you watch Tyler Shuck's tape. His ability to roll left as a right-handed quarterback and throw is as good as I've seen. I mean, it really stands out as a very unique trait of his. So he rolls to his left, kind of does the off-platform thing, and almost completes the pass on the sideline. It was kind of one of those broken plays. The receiver kind of broke off his route and turned upfield. It was almost a completion. It really was a nice play.
Went off the hands of Cedric Wilson.
Went off the hands of Cedric Wilson.
He put it in his hands. It's just,
but it was one of those. It was almost like it was one of those where you almost wonder if Wilson didn't think he could make that throw, and all of a sudden, it's right in my hands here. So it almost caught him off guard. So those were the highlights, and they really jumped out. So if you're a Tyler Shuck guy, today was your day. However, we do have to bring this up because his final session of the 4 passes, it was groups of 4, sets of 4, if you will, each one. His final throw of the game of practice during 7-on-7 was an interception over the middle of the field by Rejjon Wright. This is very important to bring up because this is now, I tweeted this out. This is very important because what you're seeing from Tyler Shuck is a player that is very comfortable, at least in the few 7-on-7 sessions that we've seen. Again, we'll reiterate that, 7-on-7, not 11-on-11. But in the few sessions that we've seen, he's very comfortable throwing vertical, and he's very comfortable throwing to the sideline. Where he is not comfortable yet, where the vision gets clouded, where it feels like it's a little clogged up, he doesn't quite trust himself yet, is the intermediate 11 to 20 yards downfield between the seams. All other areas of the field, his arm talent can take him there with no problem. But when it comes to the middle of the field, there's a timing element. You got to let a guy clear type element, and you got to be on time because if you're late, that's what happens. The player was open. The player was indeed open, the receiver on that play. He was a half a count behind, and he got picked off. Pretty typical for a rookie to not be great at that level or that part of the field early on, but it has stood out the last 2 practices. So you're seeing a guy that's got an explosive arm, incredible arm talent, can make all the throws, but right now where he's struggling is that vision between the seams. But all in all, if you're a Tyler Shuck guy, today was your day.
Yeah, and the one word that comes to me when I think about Tyler Shuck is fearless, because when you look at the order of these passes, Spencer Rattler was the first guy out there. He went 4 for 4 in his first 4 passes. So Tyler Shuck's following a Spencer Rattler who just went 4 for 4. The ball didn't touch the ground. In his first throw, Rattler was kind of dinking and dunking everything below 10 yards. Shuck's first throw, down the sideline, 60-yard touchdown to Bud Means. And it's not like Bud Means had 10 yards of separation. It had to be a good throw for Shuck to get it there. Shuck placed it in the perfect spot. You go to the second deep ball, the one to Donovan Peoples-Jones. Once again, Rattler had just finished. And ironically, Rattler's last throw of that session was a deep ball down the sideline to Rashid Shaheed. He underthrew Shaheed. It got broken up. So here comes Tyler Shuck, almost as if, okay, anything you can do, I can do better. He takes that same shot down the opposite sideline.
Right in front of us.
Once again, it's only about 2 yards of separation, and he drops it right in the breadbasket of Donovan Peoples-Jones. So I love the fearlessness of Tyler Shuck, understanding, like, look, I know Kellen Moore drafted me. I know that people are saying this is my job to lose, but I'm going to go out there and win the job. And to me, that's been almost the difference between the 2 quarterbacks, is Tyler Shuck is the one who's going out to win the job, to where Rattler, to me, is going out not to lose the job. And that's not to say that Spencer Rattler played bad. We'll get to him and his performance later. Spencer Rattler also made some good throws. But Shuck, I mean, you're seeing the physical tools. You're seeing what impressed Kellen Moore about him, so much so that he was the highest drafted quarterback in Saints history over the past 5 decades. I mean, those 2 deep bombs were phenomenal. The corner route right over the outstretched hand of the defender. You mentioned the one on the run, putting it in Cedric Wilson's hands on the sideline. Cedric Wilson just couldn't bring it in. Tyler Shuck made some really impressive passes. I mean, there's definitely something here, a great foundation to build upon if you're the Saints. And I love that he's not taking a back seat, whether he's the first quarterback, whether he's the second quarterback. He's coming in saying, hey, I'm going to show you guys, I'm going to leave you with something to talk about. I'm going to make my stamp on this practice.
Yeah, and look, I think there is a comfort, a genuine, he's got a quality. There's a genuine natural competitiveness, natural swagger to him. Yeah. Spencer Rattler had a good day today. We're going to get to him in just a second. He had a really good day today, and had it not been for 2 60-yard bombs, we probably would be talking more about Spencer Rattler's day. I'm going to talk about that in just a second because I have all the throws logged here. But I think what's encouraging is it doesn't feel too big for Tyler Shuck right now. Even if you considered last week, I know some did, that he was a little hesitant. I didn't necessarily see that last week, but even if you saw that last week, that was sort of a narrative that was pushed, or maybe that was what some people's observation, but that's fair. It was not. It never felt like he looked like a rookie on his first practice, and I think that carried over into this week. In fact, I felt like he took it, kind of grew from last week's practice to this week's practice. So that's obviously an encouraging sign. But I will say this, because it's 7-on-7, it's 7-on-7, it's 7-on-7. It's not 11-on-11. No rush yet. No blitzes. No, Mike IDs. No, having to change the protection and move it to one side. And so there's none of that yet. just from a raw physical standpoint, his arm talent is the best in the room. But if he is not able to utilize the middle of the field, that will be the block that keeps him getting on the football field right now. He has got to figure out a way to get a little more consistent in the middle of the field, and that will come with more repetition, hopefully. But there's some quarterbacks, even starting in the NFL right now, that legitimately cannot see the middle of the field, and you see how much that can limit an offense. So all in all, a good day. And I also I don't like that he finished on interception, but I like that he now has that to at least focus on, because he had such a good day before that, to where now you can't get too big-headed, because honestly, you made a bad decision. You were late on a throw late in practice that cost you an interception. There was another throw that where we both saw it. He ended up kind of bypassing the middle of the field to throw an ugly swing route to a running back that ended up going in the dirt. It was one of his 3 incompletions. But the throw was there. You could tell he's just not quite comfortable there yet. So I think if you're Shuck, you just move from last week or this week into next week into minicamp with a good foundation, but not there yet.
Yeah, and once again, we've said it a lot of times, but we have to emphasize this is 7-on-7. It's not 11-on-11. And I talked to Alante Taylor in the locker room after practice, and Alante was kind of like, he literally said, to him, 7-on-7 is not real football. He wants to get the pads on. They want to get the helmets on. They want to go 11-on-11 and really compete, because he doesn't think, and this is how he should think because he's a defensive player, he says, yeah, both of these quarterbacks are really efficient right now, but when we get into some real football, I don't think they could keep it up. And as a defensive player, that's how he's supposed to think. That's the competitiveness you want from the defense to push the offense. So, yeah, we can look at the numbers. Last week, we said it, Rattler 8 for 8, Shuck 7 for 8. Today, Rattler was 10 for 12. Shuck was 9 for 12 with that 1 interception. So very efficient from both quarterbacks. You're seeing a lot of good throws from Shuck. His best throws are coming down the field. From Rattler, he's not working down the field as much, but he's made some very impressive tight window throws.
Yeah, I want to go there next, because we mentioned Spencer Rattler had a good day. It just wasn't as explosive, and you don't know what players are being called when he's in the game or in the practice. But where it's like the contrasting styles, because what I just said with outbreaking patterns and vertical patterns for Tyler Shough is where he's really comfortable, and where he's struggling right now, not struggling, but it's not quite as comfortable as between the seams. Well, that's where Spencer Rattler is living right now. He's living between the seams. He had a beautiful throw to Jawan Johnson on an over route, gained about 25, 30 yards. He had a beautiful throw to Rashid Shaheed on a dig route about 17 yards downfield. He had another great throw to Chris Olave on a deep comeback with about 15 yards down the field. Again, between those seams where you got to let certain things clear and you got to be on time with your throw. And I remember this point last year, talking to Deuce about this, that's where he struggled because of the sense of timing you have to have in the middle of the field, where it's got to go off quicker, and he just was a half count off last year. That's why he had quite a few interceptions last year during minicamp and even in training camp because of that, and obviously that's something he worked on. So obviously early on, I think it's something that he's played particularly well, and just not just his completion percentage or whatever, it's where he's locating the football, because I do think that's a tangible improvement from last year to this year. If you were grading both practices, it really just depends on what your personal preference is, because look, there was a deep throw to, you mentioned earlier, Shaheed gets behind the defender, Rattler wants it, he throws, it's just slightly, not by much, it's just slightly underthrown. The DB's able to close, and as it's coming down on or into Rashid Shaheed's arms, it gets knocked away at the last second, and then the very next play, obviously Shuck did the same thing on the opposite side. He was able to drop it in. But on the flip side, you saw the rhythmic passing of Spencer Rattler between the seams, where Shuck still looks a little bit uncomfortable between the seams. It's fascinating to watch, and there's still a long way to go, and there's still a whole lot of evaluation, because as I've mentioned before, this is a very light workload, even though today was a little bit more than the last practice we were able to see. I do think you're already starting to see the makings of what each guy is doing really well and what each guy needs to maybe work on. And now in Rattler's case, I don't think he's ever going to throw as deep as Tyler Shough. It's just arm strength is arm strength. But you can overcome that with a sense of timing and able to kind of deliver it on time to maybe judge the speed of the receiver. And that'll come throughout minicamp and training camp. But I do think you're starting to see two young guys that are getting more comfortable. And I think that's a great thing for everyone, because if they're playing well, that means the receivers are playing well, the tight ends are playing well. So I think that's all we've really been able to see so far, just given the light atmosphere out here that we can really evaluate. So I think it's ultimately a positive for this team.
Yeah, I mean, Spencer Rattler, over the 2 practices that we've been able to see, he's made at least 3 or 4 throws in some really tight windows all over the middle that make you say, okay, that'll work. And he's done a good job. You call it dinking and dunking, whatever you want to say, but 10 yards and in, he's been very decisive. He's been very poised in getting to those routes. Where Shuck has shined over him has really been down the field, where we haven't seen Spencer Rattler necessarily go vertical. The deepest pass we've seen him throw these last 2 practices was the one he underthrew to Rashid Shaheed. But like you mentioned, he is living over the middle of the field. And if you look back, we had a few podcasts ago, we talked about Spencer Rattler and some of the struggles that he had last year, and talked about how he needed to get better. And if you look at some of the interceptions he threw last year against the Raiders, he had one over the middle of the field. His first pick against Tampa Bay, deep down the middle of the field. As a rookie, he did struggle working the middle of the field. And Kellen Moore talked about it. There's a big growth that has to happen in a quarterback from year 1 to year 2. You're starting to see that, again, 7-on-7, as Alontae Taylor says. It's not real football, but it's 7-on-7, and it's all we got.
That's all we have,
so
right?
in what we've seen, he is looking a little more comfortable, and there is an emphasis on being able to throw over the middle of the field, having the timing and the chemistry with your receivers, because he has played with Olave and Shaheed and Bub Means more than Tyler Shuck has so far. So you're seeing the growth, not just physically, but more mentally, and the willingness and confidence to throw over the middle of the field, make those tight window throws. Now, is that going to work when you're coming over the middle of the field and there's a linebacker that might knock your head off? Maybe, maybe not. Eventually, maybe mini camp, training camp, we'll see more of an 11-on-11 style setting.
I hope so. I hope so.
You better. And that's when you'll learn a lot more about these quarterbacks, because like Alontae said, that's real football, and that's when we'll see if these 10 for 12s and 9 for 12s and 8 for 8s and 7 for 7s, if those can carry over when there's a real defense out there trying to make plays and earn jobs too.
There's other things too. For instance, these guys are throwing a lot of completions. Is that a sign that the Saints receivers are picking things up quicker, and they're maybe just a little bit ahead of the DBs right now? Because you got Alontae, you got Kool-Aid McKinstry, you have Isaac Yiadom, you have Justin Reed on the back end as a safety, and right now it's been Jordan Howden. We have not seen Tyrann Mathieu, at least in the 2 practices we've been able to see. So all those questions get answered in due time, but there's the other side of those completions. Yes, the quarterback's putting where it needs to be, but the receivers are indeed getting open. I think that's also an encouraging sign as well. It's a different. They're getting coached up, these receivers, and hopefully it makes a difference. Because look, Rattler's still a young player, 2nd year, a year younger than Tyler Shuck, who obviously is a rookie. So they're going to need all the help they can get from those guys whenever. It starts to get real, and you rely on those guys that have been there before. I'll also say, as I said it last week, the size of the receivers are obvious. When you put them all together, this is not a big group physically, just height-wise and just size-wise. I don't know if that changes, but as they roll right now, if that's what you have to have, or that's who you're rolling with, you have design passing concepts that highlight that.
Yeah, and it's important, what you just mentioned about the defense. It's important to note that of the incompletions that these guys had, most of them were not necessarily caused by the defense. Spencer Rattler's incompletions came because he threw behind. It was like kind of a drag route, and he threw behind his guy. It was kind of hard for him to make a play on it. The defender was able to break it up, but that was more of a bad throw than a defensive stalwart of a play. And then the throw down the sideline where, again, he underthrew Rashid Shaheed, that gets broken up. On Tyler Shuck's side, he kind of pump faked towards the middle of the field, tried to throw to the running back. Timing was off, a bit of a bad throw to the running back. That hits the turf. The one where he rolled out, again, if Cedric Wilson catches that pass, it's the play of the day easily, but Cedric Wilson can't come through with it. And then the interception over the middle of the field, that's really the only play where you look and you say, yeah, the defense was just better on that play. But the offense, and it's probably a lot easier for the offense to win in a 7-on-7 setting, but the offense has definitely been ahead of the defense, in that mode and in that curve so far.
Yeah, and let's be honest, it is it's definitely more of an offensive period. I mean, you're not getting any pass rush. Every defense starts with a pass rush. So That's fine, but ultimately, I think that will even itself out. I'll just go through the throws. So bear with me here. Spencer Rattler opened with a check down to the flat to Kendre Miller. He had a nice throw to Rashid Shaheed on an out route, kind of a 10-yard gain, medium out route pattern. Then he hit Brandon Cooks on a little shallow cross sit-down type route for 5. Then he had the nice throw, as I mentioned, to Chris Olave. Well, actually, this was a different one, but he broke contain, scrambled to his right, and hit Olave over the middle of the field. And Tyler Shough came in at the 60-yard bomb to Bub Means. Then he hit Mason Tipton on a little return route for 5 yards. Then he hit Cedric Wilson on a little shallow cross. And then he hit Mason Tipton again on a deep out for 15 yards. Spencer Rattler's next opportunity hit Chris Olave on a deep comeback I was telling you about. Then the incompletion. Then to Rashid Shaheed on a nice throw on a slant, well-timed slant pattern where he was going to catch it and go. And then he hit the tight end for 3 yards on a shallow cross as well. When Tyler Shuck got back in the game, I keep saying game, it's the practice.
It's the closest to a game we got right now.
He opened with a nice throw. I talked about it. 25-yard gain to the tight end, Michael Jacobson on a 7 route. Then the throw to Cedric Wilson rolling to his left and falling incomplete. Then he hit Bub Means again on a little shallow cross. Then hit the tight end underneath for a 5-yard gain on the flat. And that was where he had a receiver open over the middle of the field. Bear with me here. Rattler got back in. He hit, this was a good session for him. He had a throw to Brandon Cooks for 3 yards on a little sit-down crossing pattern. Then he hit Jawan Johnson, as I mentioned, on an over route for 25 yards. Then right behind that, a beautiful throw to Rashid Shaheed. Deep dig route over the middle of the field for 20. Maybe could have been more based off run after catch. And then the big throw to Rashid Shaheed, he had him, but it was just a little bit underthrown, and it was knocked away. That was followed up by Tyler Shuck, 60-yard bomb to Donovan Peoples-Jones. Then he went back to Jacobson for a short middle-of-the-field type throw to Michael Jacobson for about 6. Then he missed the running back on that swing pattern, and then he got picked off by Reg-John Wright. So that's all the passes we were able to see. Again, all in all, the bottom line is this. I'm seeing positive things from both quarterbacks. You're not walking away thinking, they got a long way to go. No, you're seeing some positive things, and that's obviously a good thing.
Yeah, and once again, we wish we could show you all of these plays. We wish we could show you all of these throws. The Saints don't allow the media to film that portion of practice, so that's why we're talking about it and not showing it to you. But one thing I will give Rattler credit for, similar to how I gave Shuck credit for. I gave Shuck credit for coming in and kind of having that fearlessness after Rattler and saying, okay, he just went 4 for 4. Let me hit this 60-yard bomb to Bub Means. When Rattler came in for his final set of 4, it was kind of the feeling of Shuck has been the star of this practice so far, and Spencer is lagging behind. And he came out and made 3 really good throws before he underthrew to Rashid Shaheed, kind of reminding people like, hey, I'm here. Right. I'm not letting this rookie run away with the job. And that's what's going to be so fun about not just OTAs, mini camp, training camp, preseason. You can tell that these guys are not trying to give it to the other guy. They are competing. Now, like I said, so far, to me, I feel like Shuck has been more of the one that's saying, I'm going to grab this job and I'm going to take it, to where Spencer has been a little more conservative in comparison to Shuck. But you could also say because of that, Spencer has made less mistakes than Shuck has made, because we haven't seen Spencer throw an interception yet. We saw Shuck throw the pick in that last play of the session today. So, I mean, it's going to be the story over the next, May right now. It's going to be the story over the next 3 months, the quarterback battle between these two guys. And so far, it's been a really fun one.
All right, we got a couple more minutes here, so I just want to get to the attendance because there was one guy that was not here last week that was here today. That was Chase Young. And he actually, physically, he looked good. He looks really good. There was a play during one of the walkthroughs with Rattler. It was a bootleg. He knocked the pass down. So it was he had one of those flash plays, but it was obviously during walkthrough. Out today were Taysom Hill, Alvin Kamara. I didn't see Nathan Shepard. Did you see Brian Brzee? I did not see Brian Brzee. Cam Jordan, Demario Davis, Tyrann Mathieu, and Devon Godshaw. So if you add that, that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 guys, plus the handful, call it 4 or 5 that were injured. So they probably had 76, 77 of the 90 guys. So overall, the attendance was good. It is not mandatory. The The only thing that is mandatory is minicamp coming up in a couple of weeks. So you're getting some decent action. You're getting some live tempo, which I think is good. But I think in the grand scheme of things, you're talking about a very, like we said in the pod Wednesday, baby steps, incremental approach. I do think it's important to point out, though, there was a tangible increase from last week's 8 throws during 7-on-7 to this week's 12 throws, and there were a little more downfield throws. So I do think that's a step in the right direction. Probably a sign maybe by next week you'll get maybe a little more during 7-on-7.
Also worth mentioning along the offensive line, same 5, what I think is the best 5 for the Saints with those 4 first-round picks where you've got starting with Kelvin Banks Jr., going to Trevor Penning still at left guard. You've got Eric McCoy in the middle, Cesar Ruiz and Saliese Fuaga on the right side. And Kellen Moore was asked about Trevor Penning at that left guard spot, and Kellen Moore is very straight to the point.
Yeah.
It's very rare during a press conference he gives you more than you asked for, but he actually really expanded on Penning and how he's been very impressed with Penning at that left guard spot, because they asked him, are you switching people out at that left guard spot and this is just all we see, or is this kind of the spot that he's going to stay at? And Kellen Moore was very complimentary of the job that he's done there. And another big note is Alontae Taylor, someone else to monitor. He's been on both the inside and the outside. It seems like he's been on the interior a little more. I like him on the inside. And if it stays that way, you've got Yadam and Kool-Aid on the outside. You're asking a lot of Kool-Aid going into a second season. If there's anybody other than Spencer Rattler who needs to make a big year from 1 to 2, Kool-Aid McKinstry is that guy.
All right, let me put my wire got unhooked here. All right, we got to get out of here. For Andre Johnson Jr., I'm Shough Fazende. We'll catch you guys next time on Overtime.